There's a mountain in western Panama where, if you time it right, you can watch the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean in the morning and watch it set over the Atlantic that same evening, without moving from the summit. Nowhere else on the planet can you do that. It's possible because Panama doesn't run north to south like the rest of Central America. Instead, at its center, the country actually runs east to west. That one strange detail about Panama's shape says more about this country than most people realize. Panama was just ranked the #1 country in the world for expats, 3 years running. Retirees are moving there faster than almost anywhere else on Earth. And yet, look at a satellite map, and huge stretches of this country are still empty, untouched rainforest, protected land, entire provinces where almost nobody lives. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why so much of Panama stayed empty, and why that emptiness turned out to be one of the best things about retiring there. Panama sits at the bottom of Central America, a narrow land bridge between Costa Rica and Colombia, with the Caribbean Sea on one coast and the Pacific Ocean on the other, close enough together that you can swim in both in a single day. The country covers about 29,000 square miles, close to the size of South Carolina. As of 2026, roughly 4.6 million people live there, about the same population as the state of Kentucky, packed into a country so narrow you can drive coast to coast in a couple of hours in places. That population is not spread out evenly. Well over half of it is squeezed into one narrow corridor running from Panama City on the Pacific side to the port city of Colón on the Caribbean side. Step outside that strip, and the country empties out fast. To understand why, you need Panama's backstory. The country actually declared independence twice. First from Spain in 1821, when it joined a larger union called Gran Colombia. Then, in 1903, it broke away from Colombia itself, backed by the United States, which wanted the legal right to build a canal across the isthmus. Panama got that recognition within days, and weeks later signed a treaty handing the U.S. construction rights and control of a canal zone in exchange for $10 million up front and $250,000 a year. Construction started in 1904, and the canal opened in 1914, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific after a decade of brutal engineering that cost thousands of workers their lives. For most of the 20th century afterward, the United States controlled a 10-mile wide strip of land straddling the canal, known as the Canal Zone, essentially American territory sitting inside Panama. Every road, hospital, and job that mattered got built along that strip, because that's where the economy actually was. Panama didn't get full control of its own canal back until noon on December 31, 1999, following the Torrijos-Carter treaties signed in 1977. Today the canal still pulls in billions of dollars a year for the country, and that concentration of money and jobs around one narrow strip never really spread out. Generations of Panamanians had already relocated toward the canal corridor to find work, and the rest of the country had simply been left behind. That explains the concentration. It doesn't fully explain the emptiness. Close to a quarter of Panama's entire landmass belongs to comarcas, indigenous territories with their own semi-autonomous governments, protected under Panamanian law. 7 recognized indigenous groups, roughly 420,000 people altogether, live across this land, meaning about a tenth of the population occupies roughly a quarter of the map, largely undeveloped by design. Then there's Darién province, in the far southeast, bordering Colombia. It's bigger than the state of Delaware, and home to fewer than 55,000 people, a population density of about a dozen people per square mile. Almost all of Darién is the Darién Gap, mountain rainforest and swamp so dense it forms the only broken link in the entire Pan-American Highway, a road system that otherwise runs nearly unbroken from Alaska to Argentina. You cannot drive from North America to South America. You never could. Engineers have studied closing that gap for over a century and always concluded the terrain makes it nearly impossible. For a few years, that same jungle turned into one of the most heavily walked migration routes on the planet. More than 520,000 people crossed it in 2023 alone, heading north on foot. Then, almost overnight, the trail went quiet. Stricter U.S. border enforcement starting in 2025 caused crossings through the Darién Gap to collapse by more than 99%, down to roughly 3,000 for the entire year, a number the region hadn't seen since 2013. The jungle that once saw thousands of people a week now barely sees any at all. On top of the comarcas and the gap, add the forests surrounding the canal itself. The locks run on fresh water pumped from Gatun Lake, so wide bands of rainforest around it are legally protected national parkland, safeguarding the water supply, even in the middle of the country's economic engine. Stack it all together, protected indigenous territory, an impassable jungle border, and protected watershed forest, and you get a country where well over half the land is essentially locked away from development, by law, by geography, or by both. Here's why that matters if you're picturing retirement there. Panama packs modern hospitals, reliable infrastructure, and functioning cities into a relatively small developed footprint, while keeping enormous stretches of untouched coastline and mountains within a short drive. Very few countries anywhere offer that combination. It also barely uses its own money. Panama's official currency, the Balboa, only exists as coins. The country has never printed its own paper bills. Every piece of paper cash in Panama is an actual US dollar, legal tender there since 1904. For an American retiree, that means no currency exchange, no exchange rate risk, and no mental math at the grocery store. The price on the tag is the price in your bank account. Geography gives Panama one more edge most of its neighbors don't have. It sits just 7 to 9 degrees north of the equator, too close for the spin a hurricane needs to form. No hurricane has ever made direct landfall there. Compare that to Florida, the Gulf Coast, or the Caribbean, and the difference is significant. No storm season anxiety, no annual evacuation planning, no insurance premiums climbing every year because of hurricane risk. So what does actually living there cost? A single retiree typically lives comfortably on somewhere between $1,400 and $2,500 a month, and that number drops well below $1,500 outside the bigger cities. A retired couple usually budgets between $1,800 and $3,500 a month depending on where they settle. Panama City runs highest, closer to $2,500 to $3,500 for a couple, since it's the most built-up and expensive part of the country. Move outside the capital, into places like Boquete or the smaller Pacific beach towns, and costs can drop by half compared to a similar lifestyle in the US. For real numbers, a one-bedroom apartment in central Panama City rents for somewhere around $850 to $1,100 a month, while a house in Boquete can rent for as little as $750 to $800, often with utilities included. Groceries typically run $300 to $450 a month for one person and $500 to $800 for a couple, and monthly utilities, electricity, water, internet, usually land between $100 and $200, more if the air conditioning runs constantly near the coast. According to 2026 cost of living data, everyday prices in Panama run about a third lower than in the United States, and rent nationally comes in over half cheaper. None of this works long-term without the right to stay, and this is where Panama separates itself from nearly every other country on Earth. It's called the Pensionado visa, built specifically for retirees. Show a guaranteed lifetime pension of at least $1,000 a month, Social Security counts, along with military, government, or private pensions, and you qualify for permanent residency. There's no minimum age. If your pension falls short of $1,000, buying Panamanian property worth $100,000 or more drops the requirement to $750 a month, and each dependent you bring adds $250 a month to the total. The visa comes with real, legally mandated perks under a law dating back to 1987, discounts ranging from 25 to 50% on movie tickets, restaurants, hotels, domestic flights, and doctor visits, enforced by Panama's own Consumer Protection Agency. You can also bring in your household goods tax-free, once, up to $10,000, and import a car duty-free every 2 years. You only need to visit Panama once every 2 years to keep the residency active. After 5 years, you become eligible to apply for citizenship. No Spanish is required for the visa itself. A licensed Panamanian immigration lawyer handles the application on your behalf, which the law requires, and realistic total costs, including legal fees, apostilles, and government charges, run between $3,000 and $6,000. For retirees without a qualifying pension, Panama also offers a friendly nations visa open to U.S. citizens and about 50 other nationalities, though that route now requires a real financial commitment, a local job, $200,000 in real estate, or a 3-year bank deposit of the same amount. Healthcare is usually the next question, and Panama tends to surprise people here too. The country runs 2 systems side by side, a public one that's nearly free but comes with long waits, and a private one that most expats use instead. Panama City's Pacifica Salud Hospital, in the Punta Pacifica neighborhood, is the only hospital in Latin America affiliated with Johns Hopkins Medicine International, and it carries Joint Commission International accreditation, the same standard used to evaluate top hospitals in the U.S. Hospital Nacional and Centro Médico Petila round out the capital's top private hospitals, and in the West, the city of David has solid private hospitals serving the large expat community around Boquete. The price gap is what surprises people most. Routine private care typically runs 40 to 70% cheaper than equivalent treatment in the U.S. A specialist visit that might cost $200 to $400 back home often runs $50 to $70 in Panama, without the rush. Pharmacies add another advantage. Many medications that require a prescription back home are available over the counter in Panama, at a fraction of the price. Standard U.S. Medicare doesn't cover you once you've left the country, so most retirees carry private insurance instead, usually $100 to $300 a month depending on age and coverage. On safety, Panama is consistently rated one of the safer countries in Central America. A 2026 crime index puts Panama City at a moderate 42.7, notably lower than Costa Rica's capital. The U.S. State Department rates Panama at level 2, exercise increased caution, the same rating given to popular destinations across Western Europe. The realistic risk for most retirees is petty theft, not violent crime. Violent crime stays concentrated in a small number of specific neighborhoods that expats generally don't live in or visit. The areas where retirees settle, Punta Pacifica, Costa del Este, and San Francisco in Panama City, or expat towns like Boquete and Coronado, see crime levels closer to a quiet American suburb than to a major city. The precautions that matter are simple: registered taxis or ride apps instead of flagging cars off the street, ATMs inside malls or banks rather than on the sidewalk, the same street sense you'd already use when visiting an unfamiliar American city. Where retirees choose to live varies a lot, because a country this small hides a surprising amount of variety. Boquete, up in the mountains of Chiriquí province at nearly 4,000 feet, stays spring-like year-round, with cool nights and no need for air conditioning. It has the largest, most established expat community in the country, built around coffee farms and hiking trails up Volcan Baru, the same mountain where you can catch that sunrise over one ocean, sunset over the other view. Coronado, on the Pacific coast about 90 minutes from Panama City, offers beach living with golf courses and shopping, plus quick access back to the capital's hospitals. Pedasí, further out on the Azuero Peninsula, is quieter and more authentic, popular with retirees who want a real small coastal town rather than a built-up expat hub, and known for some of the best sport fishing on the Pacific side. Bocas del Toro, a Caribbean archipelago on the other coast, draws people chasing an island pace of life, with diving, surfing, and water taxis instead of traffic. And Panama City itself offers skyscrapers, casinos, world-class dining shaped by generations of immigration, and a colonial old quarter called Casco Viejo, all a short drive from the rainforest. Wherever you land, English is common in the expat towns and business districts, even though Spanish remains the official language. Weather runs on 2 seasons instead of 4, dry from roughly December through April, rainy the rest of the year, with afternoon showers that rarely last more than an hour before the sun's back out. Coastal temperatures sit in the 80s Fahrenheit nearly year-round. Up in Boquete, expect the high 60s and low 70s. Panama runs a territorial tax system, meaning it only taxes income earned inside the country. Your Social Security, pension, and 401k withdrawals all come from outside Panama, so Panama doesn't touch any of it. You'll still file a U.S. tax return every year, since that obligation follows American citizens anywhere in the world, but most retirees owe little to nothing extra to Panama itself. So, back to where we started. Panama is a country where you can watch a sunrise over one ocean and a sunset over another from the same summit, and also a country where an entire eastern province barely has anyone living in it, where a quarter of the map belongs to protected indigenous land, and where a jungle that once saw 500,000 people crossing it in a single year now sees almost none. That emptiness isn't a flaw in the country. It's the reason the developed parts of it work as well as they do: modern hospitals, a currency you already understand, permanent residency built around an ordinary social security check, and more untouched land within reach than almost anywhere else retirees are choosing to go. That's the real reason so many of them are already there, and why more keep showing up every year. Now, I would love to hear from you. Would you like to spend your retirement in Panama? What part of the country would you choose? The capital, Panama City, the cool mountain charm of Boquete, the easy beach life of Coronado, or perhaps one of the smaller towns, like Pedasí or Bocas del Toro, where you can enjoy a quieter pace of life? Let me know in the comments below. If you find this video helpful, do well to like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any updates on retirement destinations that we share here. These updates will help you make informed decisions about where to spend your golden years. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.